Hi everyone, this time I'm going to share with you the novel entitled My Antonia by Willa Cather. So My Antonia tells the story of Jim Burden and his friendship with Antonia Shumerda, both whom are immigrants to the American Midwest. Through Jim's eyes, the novel explores themes of nostalgia, the power of memory, and the transformative nature of the American landscape. So the characters in this novel first, Jim Burden, the author of the youthful recollection that makes up the body of the novel. As youth in Nebraska, Jim develops a close friendship with a Bohemian immigrant girl, Antonia Shimerda. Jim is an intelligent, introspective young man who responds strongly to the land and the environment in which he lives. Next is Antonia Shimerda, the focus of Jim's recollection and one of his closest childhood friends. Antonia moves to Nebraska from Bohemia with the rest of her family in her early teenage years. She is intelligent, optimistic, loyal, and kind-hearted, then naturally gregarious. Then Lena Lingard, a Norwegian immigrant's daughter and a friend of Antonia. Then Otto Fox, the burden's hired man who looks like a cowboy out of one of Jim's books but is actually an Austrian immigrant. Next is Jake Marple, another hired hand of the Burdens. Jake makes the trip from Virginia to Nebraska along with Jim and accompanies Otto out of west after the Burdens move back to Black Hawk. Then Mr. Shimerda, the patriarch of the Bohemian immigrant family who committed suicide because of this depression. Then Mrs. Shimerda, the matriarch of the Bohemian immigrant family. Mrs. Shimerda is a brusque, bossy, and often curt woman. Then Yulka Shimerda, the youngest of the Shimerda children. Yulka is pretty young girl who later helps Antonia raise her baby. Then Ambrose Shimerda, the Shimerda's oldest son, and Marek Shimerda, the younger of the two Shimerda brothers, and Russian Pavel. He's tall, gaunt, and nervous. Pavel is an immigrant who falls ill under the care of the Shimerdas. And Russian Peter, Pavel's housemate and fat, happy man. Like Pavel, Peter was forced into exile from his native Russia following a wolf attack on a wedding party. Then Kuzak, a Bohemian immigrant to America who marries Antonia and raises a large family with her. Then Peter Krajik, a Bohemian immigrant and neighbor to the Burdens, who sells the Shimerdas their first farm in America and cheats them out of several comforts. So, the novel opens with some background given by a nameless female narrator. Basically, this narrator tells us that growing up, she knew a young Bohemian immigrant girl named Antonia Shimerda. The narrator intended to write a story about this interesting girl who came from the region we now know as the City Republic. After all, Antonia was worthy of a story, but we come to find out that the narrator believes that her friend, Jim Burden, would be better suited for the task. He knew Antonia better. So Jim writes a memoir rather, focus on his life in relation to Antonia, and the remainder of the novel is this memoir. So Jim begins his memoir as a teen-year-old on his way to live with his grandparents in Black Hawk, Nebraska. Having just lost his parents, he is on his way to start a new life in what feels like, once he arrives, an empty place and a lonely land. It is on this train that he meets the Shimerda family, a family of six who are also traveling to Black Hawk and who end up being his grandparents' closest neighbors. Antonia, the eldest daughter, seems to know the most English, and it is with her that Jim quickly creates a band. He finds her confident and spirited, and as their friendship grows, he admires her a great deal. While Jim's childhood is full of the discovery and wonder of both the Nebraskan landscape and his new companion, he finds that his experiences with Antonia are grounded in a harsher reality. After dealing with a difficult time over the winter without much money or many connections, Antonia's father finds himself even more depressed and homesick. Sadly, he commits suicide. Antonia takes on more responsibility in the family and in the fields, which means when Jim goes to school, she does not. Their lives begin to look very different. Jim and Antonia don't see each other as much. By the time Jim reaches high school, he and his grandparents have moved off the farm and into town. Antonia is still working quiet a bit. In fact, she is hired by a family in town to be part of their house cleaning staff. This is where we are also introduced to Lena Lingard, a young girl who is also earning money for her family on a farm. The difference between Antonia and Lena and the other girls Jim knows from school are clear. Socially, Antonia and Lena are known as hired help to working immigrants girls, but Jim's friendship is true. Jim shows an outward interest in Lena, although Antonia's beauty is apparent to all. But it is only when Jim goes off to college at the University of Nebraska and Lena eventually moves to the same town to pursue a career as a dressmaker that a relationship between the two comes to fruition. This lasts until he decides he needs to make a change and he transfers to Harvard for his last 2 years of college. So, after graduating, Jim returns back to his grandparents to visit. He hears of Antonia, who has been engaged to a man who basically leaves her at the altar. Antonia deals with the pain of rejection while covering, covering up the fact that she is pregnant. This would have been a huge disgrace to her family. But she gives birth to a baby girl, resolved to care for her best her she can. While he is home, Jim decides to visit Antonia and is quite happy to find her the same resolute and spirited girl he once knew. He lives with the promise that he will visit again soon. But Jim does not visit again soon. In fact, 20 years pass before he sees her again. When Jim, who has become an attorney in New York City, finally returns back to Nebraska, he finds Antonia happily married with many children. But Jim does not visit again soon. In fact, 20 years pass before he sees her again when Jim, who has become an attorney in New York City, finally returns back to Nebraska. He finds Antonia happily married with many children, where he was once fearful that he would find his beloved Antonia weighed down in years and finally broken in spirit. He sees now that she is unchanged, the fact that she will resembles the girl she once knew, fairy and resolute even after much sadness, is the greatest possible outcome. After sharing stories and laughter, Jim leaves with the promise that he will keep in touch. Jim feels at peace with the memories he shares with Antonia, the person she is, and all that they've experienced together. The novel ends with a consideration of all that Antonia has meant to him. So the theme in this novel is the power of memory and nostalgia. Jim Burden, the narrator, recounts his childhood memories of Antonia and the hardships and joy they shared. This underscore the importance of preserving the past and how memory shapes our understanding of ourselves and the world. The most touches in this novel is that the enduring power of friendship. The deep bond between Jim and Antonia, forged into crucible of their shared experiences on the frontier, is one of the most moving aspects of the novel. Their friendship transcends social class and gender, reminding readers of the enduring power of human connection. Some quotable statement that I found in this novel is some memories are realities and are better than anything that can ever happen to one again. It is according to Jim Burden. So, this quote captures the enduring power of memory and how certain experiences, though the past, remain vivid and precious to the people. And My Antonia is a story about life, love, loss, and the enduring power of memory. It leaves us, the readers, with a sense of hope and a reminder of the importance of cherishing the connections we make to people and the moments we share together. And that's all. Thank you.